The Rams could be without their touchdown leader on Thursday. What is the very latest on Davante Adams? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you want to support every single episode, hit the like button, drop a comment down below. Podcast listeners, write us a review or read on the show. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, a wild win for the Rams, slow first half, defense struggling, interception by Matthew Stafford, and then the second half, they explode. They end up winning 41-34. We got our 10 big takeaways, winners and losers. Are there some concerns? An update on Davante Adams. Will we see him on Thursday? Should they shut him down? All that more. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. All right, Travis, so still processing this win because you look at the opponent, great offense, explosive players, a matchup with a lot of juice, a team playing with a lot on the line in the Lions. And if you're the Rams, same thing. Clinched a playoff berth, which is always a big deal. It's never easy. Had a slow first half. Matthew Stafford threw an interception, a great play by Aiden Hutchinson. He almost ran back. I think the word for me yesterday was resiliency. And this Rams team has proven all season long that if one unit doesn't have their best football going, the other one can pick them up and vice versa. And the defense did make adjustments in the second half, allowing just 10 points, giving them 5 yards, getting some more pressure. But what was your biggest takeaway, and what did you make of the win?
Yeah, I'm so glad you started there. I thought the exact same thing as I was watching this, because when Stafford threw that interception, you're like, oh, it's going to be one of those days. Okay. Because we've seen it before, right? We've seen it before where he has a day where it just stuff goes wrong and he'll throw it to the wrong team. Now, and especially when Colby Parkinson, I know we're going to talk about him coming up in a little bit. He runs all the way down. He saves the touchdown from Aiden Hutchinson having the pick six. And then the very next play, it's in the back of the end zone. You're like, oh my gosh, even when they make a great hustle play, it still doesn't really amount to a whole heck of a lot. The first half, they're getting absolutely gashed. They just cannot stop anybody. St. Brown is just doing whatever he wants. Jared Goff is doing whatever he wants. And you're like, this is one of those days. Okay, I guess this is, where they're not as good as maybe we thought they were. And that field goal at the end of the half, when they got the ball back and took a 10-point lead and turned it back into a 7-point lead, I thought was the turning point in the game. Because to your point, Doug, they came out in the second half a different group. The resiliency that they have. And in addition to resiliency, I think there's a level of calmness, professionalism, confidence, whatever you want to call it. Like, they don't panic. They really don't freak the blank out. That's not something they do. And I know you watch a lot of football. I know our everydayers probably watch a lot of football that's not just Rams football. There are teams that when stuff starts to go bad, they freak the blank out. The Rams almost never do. Like they were this close to letting that Rams, the Lions game kind of spiral and get away from them. Instead, they went on a 20-0 run. They just put it on them in the third quarter. They got 3 consecutive 3-and-outs after not being able to do anything close to that in the first half. Chris Shula couldn't be more impressive the way that he was able to kind of flip the script there. But I'm with you, D-Mac. I thought the resiliency, the professionalism, the steadiness, the confidence, the ability to just, let's play again. Let's play again. Let's do another series, another series, another series. They believe in what they do, and let's just put it on the table. they're really, really good. And they know if they just keep hammering away, they're going to score points. And you're not going to score as many points as we are. Just keep giving us the ball. Get us 1 or 2 stops in the course of a game, and we're going to win that game.
The adjustments were certainly there. I think when you see a lack of pressure, it heavily impacts the secondary. That from a talent standpoint, I think is one of the weaker units on the team that can be exploited at times by bigger, faster, more physical receivers, top-notch playmakers. But I think just the overall storyline, and one that we've been talking about all season long, was Matthew Stafford and his pursuit of the MVP. Yesterday, the Patriots lose to the Bills. And in this game, it felt like early on, like you said, that fluky-ish interception from Matthew Stafford, a hungry Lions team, that this could be the game where, wow, now we're talking maybe 2 of his last 3 games weren't great. And this maybe that MVP case is fading, because we know it can fade very quickly, especially when you Drake May and that Patriots team get in the wins that they're getting. But I think when we look back after he wins the MVP, which I'm 100% confident, 99.9% confident at this point. But when that happens, I'm going to look at this game as the game where he won the MVP, because Rams are down, as you point out, 10 points. And he ends up going 24 for 38, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But when they were down 24-14, at that point, he was 11 for 19 with interception. The rest of the game, from that point on, goes 13 for 19 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. You saw massive throws. The one to Kobe Parkinson we talked about before the show that was thankfully ruled a touchdown from a fantasy league. Yeah. And then the way that he dealt with the blitz, the Lions blitzing at a 51.2% rate. That was the second highest for any game of the Rams to face this season. He goes 14 for 19 for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns in those situations. I mean, you compare that to what we see from Jared Goff. It was like almost like the perfect, like, how does Matthew Stafford handle pressure? How does Matthew Stafford look like as a quarterback in a big game versus the guy they traded? I think it was all on display. So I think it's even deeper than just the MVP. It was like, oh, wow, here's a reason, number 5,010 million, why we feel so great about making that trade in the first place.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Like if there was anybody, and quite frank, I know there's nobody on the Rams side of the equation that's thinking, should we have done that? But there you go. There's the explanation as to why you do it, because when stuff was not working, everybody was fine. Everybody was calm. Everybody was just like, look, all right, let's make an adjustment here. Let's tweak this here. Let's try that. And they just kept getting better and better. And then on the other side, when it started to go bad for Detroit, you could see that they got sped up. The ball, they just did not look like the team that they looked like early. And you mentioned something else that I think is incredibly important too, D-Mac, which is the Lions are not only, I think, a pretty good team. I know they're 8-6 and the record doesn't jump out at you, but they had a really tough schedule. I mean, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC last year, and just a terrific team along the way. They were desperate yesterday. Their playoff hopes are still alive, but they're pretty narrow at this point. They're going to need a little help to kind of slide in to that NFC playoff picture. They threw everything they had at the Rams early in that game, and the Rams withstood the barrage of what they had early. And that's why I'm really starting to think that they're onto something special. Not just because they're the number 1 seed, not just because they're 11-3, which is incredibly impressive. They just really keep coming forward. They don't really panic. And you think about the games that they've lost. 2 of the 3 losses they have, you could even make a case that all 3 of the losses they have were kind of them shooting themselves in the foot much more than anything else. They're really good, Doug, and they're playing really well. They don't get over their skis. Now, the injuries, that's a big question. I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into Davante Adams and the latest on him. We got an NFL insider that dropped some nuggets and gave a little update on what it could look like for the Rams. But yeah, 100%. I do get that feeling too. I think great teams understand their window. And that's one thing that I get from this team. Yes, there's a lot of youth, but these are kind of those guys that feel like they're, I don't want to say old in a physical standpoint, but mature from a mental standpoint. Guys like Jared Verse, guys like Kobe Turner, 100%, Byron Young, Braden Fisk. He's a tough guy out there as well. And you just kind of get that sense from this group that they know they have a special group. They know that they have, from a talent standpoint, a coaching standpoint, what it takes to win a Super Bowl. And I know everyone says that. I know a lot of teams think that, but I think it's very different when you know it to be true. And you look around this league, Micah Parsons feared to have a torn ACL. Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to have to deal with him. Torn ACL, Chiefs having a bad year. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, not having the year they thought they were going to have. Josh Allen, that defense, we'll see. But you look at the NFC picture, Bears, Seahawks, a team that you know that you should win if you execute, and you always have a lot of success against Sam Darnold. The Packers, the 49ers, the Eagles, I still think are probably a team that presents the toughest test when it matters. I wouldn't say that's a win, but I mean, think about if the Rams were having this kind of year 2 years ago, or a year ago, or 3 years ago. You would be like, yeah, they're a really good team. They could beat anyone, but I don't think you would feel like the path. You could see the path. I think that's the path is crystal clear.
That's the biggest difference. The path is crystal clear. Exactly right. And the challenges are all on your half of the draw. So if you get through your half, I really think they're in a great spot. But I could not agree more with you. The Philadelphia Eagles are the team that go. I know that they look like they can be awful one week, and then they look pretty good. Then they're all over the map, very inconsistent. The Rams went into Philly, and I know they didn't win the game, but they easily could have won the game. They scare me the most, followed very closely by the Seahawks, and that's why Thursday is so big. Because if you're going to play them again, let's play them here in LA.
It's so big. And I look at the Eagles, BR 2021 49ers, right?
Yeah.
Let's get that monkey off our back in the playoffs and beat them when it matters most, but do it at SoFi Stadium. But coming up next, good vibes might not be as good in the second segment because we're going to talk about Davante Adams and what it could mean for this Rams offense. Got an update on Tay. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
The holidays are officially here, right? Which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories, boom, they're already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And it's great. None of that phone call. What does this thing do? How am I supposed to load it? It's all set. It's ready to go. You just do it. So your grandparents, your parents, your newlyweds, anybody who loves pictures, endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed, which means you get a little bit of a win too. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not tossed in a drawer and forgotten forever. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code locked on. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Again, that code locked on. Terms and conditions apply.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 daily sports podcast network, your team every day. Also, big shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching, listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams, Monday through Friday, audio on the podcast, video on YouTube. If you watch both, hey, man, you're like the super exclusive everydayer for sure. We appreciate that. So, yeah, now's the time to join because you got meaningful football in December leading into January. Your Rams are primed for a deep run, so join that Everyday Listeners Club. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, we're going to talk some Davante Adams, who went down in the fourth quarter, really was just running a streak, a go route, and you saw him coming up limp, and he falls to the ground. His head was in the turf, and he does walk off on his own power, so I think that's promising. But after the game, Sean McVay said, quote, "It didn't look good." He didn't want to completely rule him out for Thursday at the time because, of course, they're going to kind of go through the process, get some imaging done. But this morning, NFL insider Ian Rappaport said that, quote, "The hope is that Adams will be able to return for the playoffs." And he basically suggested that he's going to miss the final 3 games of the regular season. Here's the full quote. He said, "With any injury but certainly a hamstring injury. It's hard to imagine he's out there on Thursday night against Seattle in what is a big game. Really, there are only a couple of types of injuries this time of year. There's an injury where a guy is fine. There's an injury where he's back for the playoffs. And then there's an injury where he's done. The hope is in this one that he's one where he's back for the playoffs. There's only a couple of weeks. Hard to imagine he's out there before he's fully healthy, but the MRI will tell the story. Obviously, a lot is up in the air for Los Angeles Rams and their touchdown machine. So, yeah, I think that it's not too revealing. I think it's kind of safe to assume that with the Rams knowing how they do business, they're always going to veer on the side of caution for someone like a Davante Adams. They're not going to force him to play if they think that they could risk losing him for the entire season. But I think it's the right move, and we'll talk about some silver linings that could come from it.
Yeah, it's a tough break, to be sure, because it did not look good to Sean McVay said, when you have a player like that go down like that, we all kind of knew what it was. He'd been on the injury report, that hamstring leading up to the week. He'd missed a couple of days of practice. So not a huge surprise that thing got aggravated. Here's the good news. The bad news is they're not nearly as good without Davante Adams, right? Duh. The good news is if they can get through Thursday and win that game and hold on to that number one seed, he's got a month to get right. Like, it really is a full month of time before you're going to have to really lean on him, because think about it. They can beat Atlanta and Arizona without Davante Adams. You don't have to worry about that at all. Hold on to that number one seed. There's a bye week, so you get another week on the back end of it. So Seattle, Atlanta, Arizona, bye week. That's 4 weeks. That's nearly a month for that thing to heal up and get back. And hopefully by the time that the Rams are playing their first playoff game in that divisional round, he's back and he's Davante Adams, and you get a chance to go do what he's been able to do. The other silver lining, if there is one to something like this, is they can win without him. You don't want to try, but they can. We've seen them have success without. They won games without Puka Nacua, right? We've seen them do it before. Obviously, the competition is a step up, but you desperately want him back. But there is some runway. I would be floored if he played on Thursday. So there's some runway if you get through Thursday. They can win without him if they have to, but let's not lie to the everydayers and anyone else. Like, this is a big deal. If he's down, this is a big deal.
This team can't reach their full potential and their highest ceiling without Davante Adams. But when you look around the league in some of these severe injuries that a lot of these teams have suffered, I think if you had to sign up for the one where the guy could return, you would do that. And I think one of the turning points of this season happened in London, in a game where you're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars and you're not with Puka Nacua. And a lot of people, what's going to happen with the Rams offense and this and that? And what happened? That's where we saw the emergence of 13 personnel and using more tight ends and trying to take advantage of not just Tyler Higbee, but guys behind him, Colby Parkinson, who's been an absolute revelation this season, and Terrence Ferguson and Davis Allen. So it kind of helps the offense evolve to a degree. And you can't really replace a Davante Adams, but as far as kind of replace him in the aggregate a little bit, I think there's a world where, look, hey, Konate could help replace Tay, right? I mean, Konate Mumfield and guys like Tutu Atwell were back out there. And you can find a way to lean on the running game a little more. But I think what you said is the thing that really holds true for me is this team's always going to find ways to motivate themselves. And if this week it's, we have to bring in an extra renewed sense of focus because we know we're not 100%. So everyone's got to be at their best and execute at the highest level to be able to beat Seattle without Davante Adams. But I think, too, it's also let's win for Davante because a win is essentially an extra week of rest for him. So it helps the team long term. So I'm hoping that's top of mind for them as well. So I love that point.
And even if you get him back in the postseason and he's something less than the best version of himself, which, again, a hamstring injury for a wide receiver like Davante Adams is a big deal, right? And those things take a while to heal. If he's out on the field, he creates problems. If he's you have to account for him. So even if he's operating at 85% capacity or whatever it is, that's still a really big deal for the Rams to be able to put him out there. The defense is going to have to account for him. It lets Puka do things that Puka can do because you have to deal with Adams. It opens up those 3 tight end packages the way they are. It helps the run game because you can't put another guy down in the box. There's a whole bunch of stuff that just having him out there really does open up. So look, they punched their ticket yesterday. They're in the playoffs. So worst case scenario, he gets 3 full weeks to get ready for that first playoff game. Best case scenario, they stay in number 1. He gets that 4th week along the way. So I think we will see him again. It's just a question of whether or not he's going to be effective when he gets out there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the number one thing. And we know that this team, they have that ability to utilize their depth a little bit. And look, I think this is kind of what you sign up for when you sign someone like Davante Adams, right? This is kind of baked into the process. When you sign a receiver that's older than 30, a guy that's played a lot of football, I mean, this kind of stuff happens, and that's kind of what you see. So, look, I still think this team's in a good spot. I mean, if there was one game that you really wanted to have a Davante Adams in a game where points could be at a premium, I mean, you're going to miss that. You're really going to miss that. But, hey, I'm looking like for some weird reason, I can't really explain. I almost want to feel more nervous. I want to feel like this hurts more than it really does. I mean, it did feel like it was an episode of Squid Game yesterday in the NFL, and guys are going down. And for me, I don't know, what was your reaction when you saw Puka Nacua reacting the way he did? I mean, to a cramp. I mean, my heart left my body.
Yeah, no.
They got back in, but
that was the one that went, oh no. Because, look, Davante was a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But at least in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, we still have Puka. We're still okay. And then, it felt like 2 seconds later, Puka is down as well. Reportedly that was just cramps. So that's something that, you're going to be able to move forward from. But, yeah, no. One guy, it's the NFL, right? You can withstand a certain amount of attrition, even if it's some of your elite guys like Davante Adams. But when you start taking double whammies like that, there's really no way around. Maybe for a game, we saw the Rams do it in the Super Bowl when they won, where guys are just dropping left and right. But to try to run through an entire playoff run without your guys that's asking too much of anybody.
No doubt about it. And thankfully, like you said, was a cramp. And Davante Adams, hey, I almost wish they just make the executive decision where even if they get positive responses and positive feedback from the MRI, that's what hamstring injuries are just so notoriously tricky for not going away. And it's like you're fine until you're not fine. And this team had been on the good side of injury luck all season long. Like, don't tempt the football gods and don't tempt the injury gods with that one.
This is how important he is to their run to a Super Bowl potentially. I'd be willing to go on the road to play in the playoffs before I would be willing to play him on Thursday night. Like, I would love to have the number 1 seed overall. I think that would be, incredibly advantageous. But if you told me, look, you got to go through Chicago or you got to go through Philadelphia or you got to go through Seattle at some point to go back to the Super Bowl again, but you're going to have Davante Adams as healthy as possible. Okay, I'll take that road as opposed to trying to play him on Thursday night to try to squeak that number 1 seed in.
For sure. No doubt about it. Coming up next, throw out a game ball for this one. Also, what's next for the Rams as far as seeding goes? We're going to lay that out. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
NFL Sundays, they move fast, right? How about this one? One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting, because you're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action is unfolding, right? You see the Lions go right down the field. You can bet on that. You say every momentum swing, an interception by Matthew Stafford. You can get in at that point. Every highlight moment gives you another opportunity, because live betting is best when the game starts to shift. That receiver, Puka, gets hot. A defense tightens up. Kobe Turner. The momentum flips after that big turnover, and FanDuel lets you jump right into it. Live spreads, money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and a whole lot more. And it's just keeping you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of all of this action all season long, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis. So I don't know if you saw that meme yesterday. It had Phillip Rivers walking onto the field, and it said, what having 10 kids at home saying 6'7" does to a guy, right? And I know you'd appreciate that one. Well, that kind of had a little bit of that did have an impact yesterday. He impacted the Rams because that back and forth game, the Colts, they take that late lead with a field goal, a 60-yarder, then the Seahawks able to get that field goal late. Well, in the simplest terms, the number one seed could come down to TNF, Thursday Night Football up in Seattle. The Rams right now, according to the Athletics model, have a 56% chance of taking that one seed. If they beat the Seahawks, their chances of winning the one seed jumps to 92%. But if they lose, it would go down to 22%. And this is vomit inducing.
I know.
It would put the San Francisco 49ers right in a position to get right up there. So the Rams, they're the team that's clinched the playoffs. But now, look, Davante Adams or not, the Rams have to find a way to go up to Seattle and take care of business, because I don't want to be too dramatic about this, but this could be determine whether or not they win the Super Bowl. I think it's that dramatic.
It is. I don't think it's being dramatic. I think it's being honest. I think it's right there in front of you. Look, I thought Phillip Rivers was going to do us the ultimate favor and come off of his couch with his extra 40 pounds or whatever it is he's dragging around out there and, do the Rams a huge favor by winning that game. And look, this is why I think Thursday night's game is going to be just wild and fun and exciting and, nausea inducing and all that kind of stuff. Is the Seahawks are really good. Like they bounced, like they had 30 seconds to drive and get into field goal range and make a kick. And they did it. Their season, maybe not their season, but their opportunity to be in charge of this thing was right there. And they jumped on it and they did it. The thing that makes me feel a little better is the last 3 times the Rams have played Sam Darnold, they've turned him inside out. And I don't know if that's going to be something that he's going to be able to fix dramatically. Maybe it can be marginally better, and maybe that's good enough to beat the Rams. But, yeah, you're right. It's everything. And that the Niners are just sitting there lurking is a whole nother thing, because, Doug, you and I have talked about this a million times. The Niners may be missing guys. They may have Mac Jones at quarterback on any given situation. Fred Warner's out for the season, et cetera, et cetera. They always play the Rams tough. And especially when it feels like it's tilted towards the Rams, that's when they really show up and deliver a performance. So, yeah, Thursday night is the season for Seattle. I don't think they can go on the road and win all those games. I think the Thursday night is the season for the Rams. I think they have a better chance of going on the road and getting back to the Super Bowl. It's certainly not nearly the same chance as you would have if you stayed at SoFi Stadium. And look, San Francisco's just sitting back there hoping they beat the what out of each other and that they can come in the back door. It's a huge game. It's exactly what you want. You just you wish you had Davante Adams going into it.
And there's no question about it. I mean, I think that this is a game you want to see a better performance from the defense, and hopefully, like you said, you have the experience of winning close games, and that's something that I think is in the Rams' favor in this one. It's going to be a raucous environment. That place is going to be electric. Michael Brocker said on the squad yesterday that players either feed off that or they're not built for it, right? And I would bet that the vast majority of this Rams team, based on what we know, what we've seen, they feed off and they welcome this electric environment. Guys like Jared Verse, guys like that. So it's going to be buckle up. It's going to be, before we know it's going to be here. We did promise again. What is it?
There's no way that there's a bunch of guys in the Rams are going to go in there like this, right? They're going to go in there ready. They might lose, but that's not going to be because they freak out. That's not, if they go down, it won't be because of that. They're
built for this. They're born for this. They're ready for this. I did say we were going to go to game ball. Probably thought I was going to give it to Stafford. I got to go to Puka Nacua. I think
sure.
This guy is ridiculous. I mean, he had the drop on early in the game, but he had 2 big catches on 4th down. He got 9 of 11 targets, career high 181 yards. Like, I mean, this guy is just the heart and soul of this team. I know that Stafford's the MVP, but I still feel like Puka Nacua is the heart and soul of this offense with the grit that he plays with. I mean, Stafford plays with a ton of grit too, but there's just some type of aura, some type of vibe he plays with that just I think the other guys feed off it.
Every single time they have to get something done, they go to him. Every time, whether it's a big third down, look at the way that they decided to put the game away yesterday, right? They didn't give it to Blake Corum or Kyron Williams with a handoff. They gave it to Puka Nacua. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, they have two backs that are playing at a super high level. Both Williams, 2 more touchdowns. Corum, another great day with another touchdown along the way. And with we got to make sure the ball's down on the ground. We got to make sure somebody stays in bounds. We got to make sure somebody does the right thing. They handed it to Puka Nacua to kind of make sure that game went the way that they wanted it to go. Big play after big play after big play. Tough as you know what. I'd love to see the guy step out of bounds occasionally. I'd love to see him get on the ground and avoid 1 or 2 of these hits, but that's not the way that dude's built. He's going to take every single shot that they want to throw at him, and he's going to keep coming. He's amazing.
Really is. And now on the season, 102 receptions, 1,367 yards this season. Just the 5th player all time with at least 100 receptions and 1,200 plus receiving yards in 2 of his first 3 seasons. It's kind of more of an off-season topic, but I mean, I really think, I mean, he already has a 2nd team All-Pro under his belt. You're looking at a 1st team All-Pro this year potentially. I mean, this is a guy that could, he's only 24. He does this for 6 years. I mean, he could make it around the Hall of Fame. I mean, he really could. With postseason success, he could really go down as, I don't want to say a Mount Rushmore Ram or anything like that, because they have so many great players, and who knows what it could happen. But I mean, he's really trending in some all-time Rams lore.
He's yes to all of that. My only concern with him is the amount of punishment he takes. Like he just gets hit so frequently and so often, and he's not going to
change.
No. He's like Cooper Kupp, right? Like Cooper Kupp was just like this. Cooper Kupp didn't miss a chance to smash into somebody. And we saw how that ended, right? It just went, whoa, where did Cooper Kupp go? So that's my only concern with Puka is just the amount of punishment he takes. But he is a phenomenal football player.
Incredible stuff. And he's going to have maybe his biggest game of the season on Thursday, too, to help get that win. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. We'll continue to break this one down tomorrow. Still a lot to unpack. That's going to do it for this episode. And today, one of my favorite episodes of the week, DeMarco and Travis, ESPN LA, breaking this one down. Can't wait to get his thoughts on that one and Travis's as well. So definitely tune into that. 3 to 6, ESPN LA. Definitely go check that out and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, drop a comment down below. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams House.